Hey, welcome back to Batteryman. This week we're looking at some of the challenges, qualities and boundaries that you might need if you're self-employed. Of course, if you've not been watching so far, I'm taking the journey from a DIYer to a fully fledged electrician. So I'm looking at this from the angle of being an electrician. But this applies to anyone that's thinking of becoming self-employed. So let's get started with week 17 of Batteryman. I'm sure that you don't think that self-employment, or at least starting self-employment, is all roses. One of the first questions that I considered this week is, can you find enough work? I think in business it's all about the relationships you have. Good relationships with customers mean that the work keeps flowing in, but you got to start somewhere. Maybe the route to self-employment for you is by keeping your existing work and doing a little bit of your self-employment. Every situation is going to be different. How would you feel at a later stage when you want to give up your day job and move to your self-employment? I learned this week about many of the skills that can be useful to those that are self-employed. For example, being organised, flexible, respectful of confidentiality and honesty. Unless you're straight out of school, no doubt you've already developed these skills in previous employment. I'm sure we can all see how these are useful qualities for anyone that's considering becoming self-employed. What about the type of work that a self-employed electrician might take on? Some work would just be out of reach when you start. There's a lot of options for electricians, such as fault finding or installing new lights and sockets, even replacing fuse wire in an old consumer unit. But there's also some more technical jobs. So maybe it's worth leaving those for a later stage. For any self-employed person, it's likely that you're going to have some form of working at home. Maybe a specific day in the week for this, or in their evenings or weekends. Having a space specifically for work is important. In some ways, this has got easier with phones being portable and laptops allowing us to work in many different places. It's amazing how much paperwork can accumulate. Paperwork that needs to be kept for some time. My training material encouraged me to set boundaries early on between home life and work life, possibly putting these in writing. These are not just for you and your family, but for your customers too. Do you want to answer calls in the middle of the night? Or maybe you feel that that service is just missing in your area and you can cater to that.
It's alright, love, I can come out in the middle of the night and fix that for you.
If your family knows and respects that you're going to be using that workspace at that time, then it'll be easier to carry out the task that you need to. Having clear business goals is very important. It can stop you from going off on different tracks and ultimately help you to achieve what you set out to achieve. This, along with understanding what the business climate around you is very important. It's no good offering a certain type of service if there's just not the customers for it. All of this combines into a business plan. You want to include things like how you're going to plan on managing cash flow, an estimation of expected incomes and expenses, how you plan on registering the business, what you need to purchase in order to make the business happen, and so on. All of these things will be helpful if you need to raise finance, and ought to help you keep on track with your goals. This will also help you with cash flow. One of the worrying things that can happen with self-employed businesses is that they just keep pouring in their own money because they have this dream that they just want to make work, but without stepping back and making sure that the plan is sound and that the plan's being followed. It could result in a cash flow dry situation, which could cause the business to fail. Ultimately, this would leave you worse off than you started. There's no guarantees with any business, but a lot of this can be avoided by having and sticking to the plan. I'd love to know in the comments below if you found anything that's been particularly useful for you in starting a business. Please share any advice you have. One of the ways that we're going to keep the cash flow going is by bringing work in. Marketing is so important. How many businesses can you see a picture or hear a noise and recognise them?
I'm loving it.
Ho ho ho.
Green Giant.
Let me know in the comments if you could tell I was hungry while editing this. The only way you're gonna know a business is by its marketing presence. We'll learn more about this next week. Let's leave it here. Battery Man out.